Today I'm going to talk to you about Igbo Landing. Several weeks ago, I was on Jekyll Island and I filmed there on site at Jekyll Island. I shared with you about the ship the Wanderer that was illegally brought to the shores of Georgia with captured Africans that were to be enslaved. Today, I want to talk to you about Igbo Landing. Adjacent to Jekyll Island is St. Simon Island. On St. Simon Island is a place called Dunbar Creek. Dunbar Creek was the place that is identified as historically the site for the mass suicide of Igbos that were brought to the Americas in 1803. So the story goes that on a ship in 1803, the slaves were brought here. However, they committed a mass suicide. This place was to be marked as a historical site, noting the place of this mass suicide because this mass suicide represented what many believe to be the first resistance to slavery. There is a dispute as to why or why not the historical site has not been preserved. There has been a location identified with a placard that lists and notes what actually happened in 1803, but it is not at the site of Dunbar Creek. You will see after this a video that I filmed at Dunbar Creek without seeing Dunbar Creek because of the overgrowth. And the reason is because Dunbar Creek, Igbo Landing site, is actually not private property. On the property itself, you will see pictures that still has the demarcation of Igbo Landing, but that piece of property has actually been sold to private citizens and it is no longer accessible to the public. So this bit of African American history is now being denied public access. And I think it's appalling that something of this magnitude and this significance is being erased from our history, because without having access, sooner or later, this story disappears. And so I wanted to mark this introduction. I have pictures included. I do include a video on site telling you the story of Igbo Landing, but I felt the need to also create this introduction to share with you the danger of the times in which we live, where so little regard is given to our history that places of monuments can be sold to private citizens that can then have the free will to erase our history. I think it's important that we make a statement of the need to preserve our history. This story tells of a people who were brought here by water, who left by water, because they said the water brought us here and the water will take us back. And it was the first of the resistance to the institution of slavery and the travesty of slavery and how horrible it is. As Igbos, they understood in the Torah that suicide was forbidden, but consider the fate that awaited them, that they were willing to violate Torah and end their lives because they did not want to be subjugated to that inhumane institution. Please enjoy the video. Thank you. Hi, good morning, and I'm speaking to you this morning from St. Simon's Island, Georgia, right outside what is called historic Igbo Landing. And Igbo Landing is a historic site that is remembered for what happened in 1803. So in 1803, a slave ship was traveling from West Africa through the coast area of Georgia into the Carolinas. On board the ship were Igbos that were being captured to become enslaved people here in the Americas. On the ship, the Igbos overtook the captain and cast them to sea and took the ship and brought it ashore right here on St. Simon's Island, Dunbar Creek area. After they took control of the ship and brought the ship to shore, it is believed that as they disembarked the ship and realized the fate that awaited them to become enslaved people here in Georgia and the Carolinas, that they were, at the direction of their captain, directed, while still in chains and shackle, to march back to the waters and drown themselves. It is believed that 75 of the Igbos, that they were drowned, that they committed suicide because they said they'd rather die than be enslaved. This story is significant because it speaks to the reality of a history here in America. We're living in an era of revisionist history where the history books speak about slavery, that it was not a very harsh system, and it was akin to the indentured servitude of the North. But yet and still, 75 people were willing to kill themselves that live under that harsh treatment. What's even more important, you know that the Hephzibah Foundation was created to tell the story of the Igbos from a different vantage point. The Igbos, as have been told many times before by myself and others, are lineal descendants of Israel. The Igbos are the Jews of Africa. In much the same way the Ashkenazi are the Jews of Europe and the Sephardi are the Jews of the Middle East, the Igbos are the Jews of Africa. And so these Igbos that were brought on these ships to be enslaved here in the Americas, and particularly these 75 Igbos that were brought here in 1803, are lineal descendants of Israel. They were a part of the Jewish lineage that were sent into the diaspora. And so I wanted to recount this history for you today, as I had the opportunity to visit St. Simon's Island, and I wanted to share this story with you. The important reality that slavery robbed the Igbo people of Nigeria, lineal descendants of Israel, of many of their descendants that were brought ashore to the Americas by way of the Georgia coast and the Carolina coast. Some were also dropped off in the island of Jamaica, where my family was from. But altogether, we're all the same people whose origin and story began in the land of Israel and have now been scattered to the world. And it is my goal and my job to provide education and re-education to our people so that those who have a desire can reclaim a heritage that was stolen from us centuries ago. Thank you.